welcome everyone to another No Creative Conversation. US President Joe Biden recently released his presidential statement and accompanying report on the activities of US agencies, including USAID, that they have taken to move the women, peace, and security agenda forward. The Women, Peace, and Security, WPS for short, is a policy framework that recognizes that women must be critical actors in all efforts to achieve sustainable international peace and security. The agenda evolved from the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which was unanimously adopted by the member states on October 31 of 2000. Biden's recent statement back in June highlighted a key line of effort on partner support, which encourages partner governments to adopt policies, plans, and capacity to improve the meaningful participation of women in processes connected to peace and security and decision-making institutions. This line of effort summarizes the work USAID's implementing partners, including Creative Associates, are conducting for WPS. Specifically, I'm really excited to speak in this No Creative Conversation with Rugiatu Diallo, P4P's Chief of Party, and Alimu Diallo, Reward and Reward 2's Chief of Party. Rugiatu and Alimu, congratulations again on the recent spotlight of the great work your teams have done on WPS, especially working with the Executive Secretariat of the G5 Sahel for P4P, Rugi, and for Alimu for Reward with ECOWAS. So thank you and welcome to this No Creative Conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's get down to it. So my first question is for each of you, and Rugi, if you could start us off, can you take us through the approach your project took and is continuing to take in the WPS agenda? What has been the programming around that for P4P?
Thank you very much, Adrian. For P4P, starting to work on mainstreaming of women, peace, and security agenda meant first focusing on trying to get our main regional partner, G5 Sahel, to kind of assess where they were in terms of integrating women, peace, and security into their general framework. When we approached them with it, we got big round eyes because indeed they had not thought too much about integrating WPS, as we call it. And so we started by offering them the possibility of placing a gender specialist that we seconded to the G5 Sahel Executive Secretariat for a period of 3 years. And the role of that person was really to work with the high-level management of G5 Sahel. First of all, to review all the policies of the G5 Sahel, to kind of assess, kind of do a gender assessment and find out, are the policies even simply gender sensitive? And if possible, are they gender transformative? And so they went through an exercise of going through all the key documents of policies of the institution. And the interesting thing is that they did that both regarding the policies and strategies and programs that they have geared towards the external work of the institution, but also geared towards the internal aspect of the institution. How are they organized?
Right.
And how is gender considered in the institution itself. We got the wonderful support of the permanent secretary himself of the G5 Sahel, who was completely on board with the need to mainstream and even go beyond mainstreaming women, peace, and security in the G5 Sahel policies. And we got him to actually realize that G5 Sahel should actually consider developing a gender policy that would integrate women, peace, and security, and that would allow the permanent secretariat to then engage with the 5 member countries of the G5 Sahel on how to make sure that women, peace, and security is actually the agenda is being advanced in the 5 countries. And after working on the policy for 2 years with them, we're very happy that they now have a formal gender policy with a full section of the gender policy focusing on women, peace, and security. And that has trickled down now to the countries, the 5 member countries of the G5 Sahel.
That's great to hear. Alimu, for ECOWAS, what was Reward's approach to WPS programming?
Yeah, thank you. The Reward approach to women, peace, and security programming within the ECOWAS Commission started with some levels of consultation with the early warning directorate and other experts, including the ECOWAS Gender Development Center, the ECOWAS Gender Directorate, the Gender Wing of the United Nations Office for West Africa, WANED, the Gender Desk of the Political Affairs, Peace and Security Department, and other regional gender experts to identify the gaps in integrating gender in early warning and response. And then we hired a consultant who was then assigned the task to develop a manual, which ECOWAS called the ECOWAS Gender Manual, and also the consultant was also asked to design a training model, to address the capacity gaps that were identified. So based on that, we then worked with the ECOWAS Directorate. There was a focal point that was assigned to work with us, and we developed these tools, validated them, and published and launched the tools and handed them over to ECOWAS. We then also work with the early warning directors to now review the indicators that they have to make sure that gender and GBV issues are integrated within the data collection across the 15 ECOWAS member states. So then gender and social inclusion became a cross-cutting theme across the spectrum of early warning and response, from data collection to data analysis, response planning and implementation, and that then created a platform for engagement with both the early warning experts as well as the end users of the early warning products, so that gender becomes a central theme in all the engagements that ECOWAS are doing in the West African region to address issues of human security. So these tools, we are also tailored to make sure that they are relevant for the national centers that ECOWAS is currently setting up in each of the ECOWAS member states. We then developed webinars that we then used to train because of COVID, to do some virtual trainings to develop both the capacity of the ECOWAS Commission and then civil society, the African Union, other regional economic communities across the African region, and also the national centers of ECOWAS.
That's really great to hear. And thank you, Alimir and Rugi. Just listening to that, I find similarities between both multi-pronged approaches, really, like looking at the policies that the two organizations have and seeing where you can integrate the WPS agenda, and not only seeing, it's great to hear that, you know, the work has started to transform not only this at a system level, at a policy level, but also champions, like actual individual champions from both organizations, and that it has, again, not only work being done in the central cell of these two regional organizations, but then again trickles down to the national centers and other affiliated organizations in the region as well. So congratulations on that. My next question then, you know, hearing that there's just a lot of stakeholders involved in both of the work done. And Alim, I'll start with you on this one. The WPS report that I mentioned, the presidential statement by President Biden, identified your work under the line of effort, which is partner support. So it is encouraging, supporting partner governments to take on the WPS agenda work. And so can you give us insight and any lessons learned, best practices that you have, that the team has, to the relationship building and the collaboration that had to really happen with ECOWAS for you and G5 Sahel for Rugi? How did that all work out?
Yeah, for us, one of the lessons learned is that the programming we did with ECOWAS, as I indicated, was driven by expressed needs by the ECOWAS Commission itself. So we asked them what they think where there are gaps related to women, peace, and security issues in their programming, and they informed us that they needed to strengthen the integration of gender across the spectrum of early warning. And then we worked with ECOWAS also to conduct some assessments across the 15 ECOWAS member states. And some of the indicators that were used were also gender sensitive indicators. And that then provided evidence-based, data-driven programming as a result of the country risk and vulnerability assessments, the youth assessment, and also focusing on the needs for women and girls to be amplified, you know, across the spectrum of early warning and response. So that then also became one of the factors of success by ensuring that the programming is evidence-based and data-driven. We also built in some level of flexibility, because working with a regional organization of the size of ECOWAS require that you also have to understand their culture, also know that they have some high-level engagement, including the summit of the ECOWAS heads of state. So how do you plan your programming, taking into consideration some key sensitive periods for the ECOWAS when they might even go on leave, and then you can allowed some level of flexibility for program adaptation to make sure that we are able to respect the sensitivities and the needs of the institution, while ensuring that we also implement our programming and achieve the desired results. We also deployed technical experts, because if you want to work with these organizations, they have highly competent staff. So you also need to demonstrate an added value. So we deployed staff that provided high value in terms of technical support, especially with the geographic information system, the assessment component, developing tools for analysis, and then ECOWAS found out how relevant and supportive these tools and the technical support are to their programming. We also created a viable platform for collaborative engagement with relevant stakeholders. You know, generally, large organizations also have their territories to protect, let me say, departments or divisions. Sometimes people just want to make sure that they protect their areas for various reasons and for various interests. So, but what we did was to create a platform where in the early warning directorate we directly engage the end users of their products at the level of data collection, analysis, and reporting, so that the final products are relevant and also actionable. And that we did through some simulation exercises where we supported ECOWAS to respond to crisis situation using the Lake Chad Basin as an example. We also aligned our programming to the immediate, medium to long-term strategic objectives of ECOWAS.
Right.
The USAID reward project supported the implementation of the ECOWAS mechanism for conflict prevention, management, peacekeeping, and also the supplementary protocol on democracy and good governance and the ECOWAS conflict prevention framework. So these are ECOWAS policy instruments. And we then studied this document and made references to them in all our programming to make sure that we support ECOWAS implement them effectively. And that was also a very successful approach we used working with ECOWAS.
That's great. And Rugi, for G5 Sahel, what have you learned in the whole relationship building and collaboration partnership aspect?
Well, I would say that the key number one lesson learned is a little bit like what Alimu mentioned. It has really been the putting the focus in our partnership with them on first having a participatory approach in which the G5 Sahel is really the one leading us into what are their needs exactly, and how we can support them. Unlike the old models of cooperation, which were so top-down, and from the donor imposing on the partner. In this type of partnership that we developed with them, it was completely different. Because we are also working in a sector that is extremely volatile, violent extremism, we decided that we were going to have a work plan for the year developed in partnership fully with the experts of the G5 Sahel. However, we were going to have a 3 months review, a quarterly review of the work plan, in which we would invite the managers and the technical experts of the G5 Sahel to come to Accra for a coordination meeting and a work plan review meeting involving USAID West Africa, Creative Associates that is implementing the program, and the G5 Sahel. And we would go through the work plan and be very flexible to eventually address changes in the environment, address and accept new needs, and consider, if necessary, a review of the course. and the direction in which
mhm.
our work plan was going. So flexibility and a very participatory and frank and open collaboration with the management of the G5 Sahel has been, I believe, a key to a very successful relationship and partnership that we've had with them. And it has been actually so successful that last year when G5 Sahel had their annual heads of states conference, they actually asked Partnerships for Peace to participate in that conference, and I had the big honor of participating and being there with the five heads of states of Burkina Faso, Chad, Mauritania, Mali, and Niger, and the high-level experts of G5 Sahel to discuss the questions of development and security in the region. So it shows the level of trust and positive partnership that we had developed with them.
That's great to hear. And again, like from both of you, I'm hearing that it's really, you know, the flexibility and knowing what each of the partnership you know, can offer to the table, right? Because each part has a lot of expertise, has a lot of experience, and so respecting that and to be flexible on, you know, whether it is the way that they want to conduct data analysis, data collection, and also the work planning, and so that's really great to hear that trust has been formed in each of ECOWAS and G5 Sahel because of that positive partnership that each of your projects have done with the two regional organizations. And so now in looking forward, where do you both think the opportunities are and where are the continuing gaps, specifically around moving WPS forward? Rugi, you can start this one.
Sure. I think that we have come a long way in the sense that we've supported countries in having a better understanding of how women, peace, and first of all, what is the women, peace, and security agenda? What does it entail concretely, and what actions concretely the countries have to take, both at the level of policy, but also at the level of programs. That work we were able to do. Now, once those action plans are alive documents, the one thing that I would like to see is a budgetary line in the national budget of each country that allows funding for the actual implementation of the WPS agenda in their country. We haven't reached that point yet, so a lot of it is externally funded for now, and that calls for questioning the sustainability of it. And so to me, the most important thing is the advocacy to continue within the countries and within the regional institutions so that we can reach a point where in each national budget, there is a line item to fund not only CVE in the country, but also to fund particularly the Women, Peace and Security agenda.
Alimu?
Yeah, I think there are many opportunities that we can build on in the ECOWAS region. First, within the ECOWAS Commission, the ECOWAS has created the institutional mechanism to drive and champion the WPS, the Women, Peace and Security agenda, and working through the ECOWAS Gender Center in Dakar, the Gender Directorate, the Directorate of Early Warning and Political Affairs should continue to make sure that we support ECOWAS in this effort to ensure that women, peace and security are integrated within the ECOWAS peace and security architecture. The other opportunity that, as I said earlier on, we've developed tools for early warning and response. So I think the opportunity exists to continue supporting the ECOWAS Commission to make use of these tools and also share them with the ECOWAS member states and build capacity for their use and adoption. And an example would be how these tools can now be used to support the implementation of the operationalization of the ECOWAS national centers in each of the member states. So that's an opportunity. Already there are 5 existing in 5 countries, and ECOWAS is in the process of establishing the 10 remaining centers. Right. And you know, focusing women, peace and security as a cross-cutting theme in the work of these centers is an opportunity. Also, civil society are vibrant in the ECOWAS region. So yeah, supporting the work of civil society as well to complement the work of both ECOWAS and national governments is also critical. And the other opportunity would be to see how there is a synergy between the work of the ECOWAS Commission and also the ministries of gender, women, and social affairs in the member states and civil society, so that whatever achievements are made at the macro level can be decentralized at the national as well as the local level. And the other side of the question was about the challenges. In West Africa, it is evident that poverty and underdevelopment is a major issue, and that then is affecting women in terms of you know, getting the opportunity for them to build and strengthen their individual agency. So that's a challenge. West Africa remains one of the poorest regions of the world. There are also sociocultural barriers that are hampering progress in the region. There are harmful practices such as female genital mutilation. I think some of the West African countries are among the highest where FGM is still prevalent in the world. So these are some of the challenges that I think we need to focus on going forward.
Great. And thank you for outlining, you know, the challenges that are still existing and continue to exist, and then but the opportunities as well that these two bodies can take. So my final question then is, and both of you have started to take on this. Let's say 5 years down the road, we conduct an evaluation of P4P and Reward. What would you like to see to say then, you know, that the work that has been done and is currently being done was a success and made long-lasting positive impact to the organizations, and then to the states even, and even to the ground level?
For me, when I think of what would I like to see 5 years after the closing of P4P. I mean, in this project, we have supported 5 countries of the Sahel to develop. First of all, sorry, let me back up. We've supported the key regional institution focusing on development and security, which is the G5 Sahel. We've supported them to develop tools to enable countries, their member countries, to realize that fighting violent extremism is one thing, but there is the possibility of preventing radicalization that leads to violent extremism. We've done that with the G5 Sahel. And there is a regional guide that was developed and shared. It was adopted by the G5 Sahel heads of state. It was distributed in the 5 countries. And based on that, each of the countries has now developed their own national prevention and countering of violent extremism strategy, which is a big achievement. Going from countries which believed the military approach was the only approach to resolving the problem of violent extremism, to now having countries who recognize that there is the possibility of working on prevention, and it is a must that this approach be also key in the way the country wants to address and needs to address violent extremism in the Sahel. My dream is that in 5 years, again, these national CVE strategies have received at least 50% of national budget funding. I was hearing somebody, one of the participants to one of our meetings, say, you cannot depend on your neighbor to take care of your own affairs. These strategies are there. They're very good. They were developed nationally, but budget needs to be allocated for it to happen. And that funding cannot be only from donors and external partners. I would dream of seeing each country putting funding behind their own national CVE strategy, so that these strategies are really completely integrated in the national country's approach to dealing with this issue. Now, that's really my biggest dream.
Thank you, Rugi. And Alamu, to end for Reward.
Yeah, for Reward, first within the regional body, the ECOWAS Commission, I would love to see an organizational gender policy being implemented to prevent workplace harassment and GBV issues, because that's critical for large organizations like ECOWAS. The next thing I would love to see is also women mediators at the high table during high-powered mediation. We know sometimes mediation is being led by the heads of states. In West Africa right now, we don't have a woman. We had one, the first, I think, was the former Liberian president. But since it is the sitting heads of state that lead high-powered mediation, I think ECOWAS should also be able to deploy women who have been trained, to support that process, and they should be seen at the high level driving mediation agendas. The other issue is also funding. I know this is happening both at the level of ECOWAS and the member state, but I want to see this being increased, increased funding allocation to gender development work, both in ECOWAS and in the member states. And the other thing is a reduction of violence against women and girls, because that's one of the indicators that will show a reduction of hegemonic masculinities and violence, and a promotion of collaborative effort between men and women as allies in the work of peace and security. So I think these are some of the concrete results that I would love to see going forward to guarantee a long-lasting impact of the work USAID has done to support ECOWAS.
Adrian, if I could add, we've supported G5 Sahel to launch a structure that is called the Regional Women's Platform of the G5 Sahel. That regional platform, which is composed of women from all 5 countries, has now created national level antennas in each of the country, and the national antennas have actually now developed some sub-regional antennas so as to reach to go as grassroots as possible at the community level. And these women leaders have actually a lot of potential. That institution I see is really one that in the countries, if supported adequately, can do a lot in terms of both influencing policy, but also providing role models for young girls in the country. And we have one of the last activities of P4P has been actually supporting them in developing activities for what they've called women champions, who have gone through the countries to the most remote areas, meeting girls and talking and emulating in those young girls, young high school girls and middle school girls, the image, presenting them the image of what a strong woman can actually achieve in all respect of the local culture and of the local standards. What exactly is there for them out there to achieve? And these are initiatives that I hope other USAID programs will continue to support.
Thank you. And I really appreciate both of your answers for this question. Alamu, the importance of not only, the policy change externally outside, but also, containing and really targeting workplace harassment, so an internal shift, gender transformation in the bodies themselves. And for Rugi, again, policy high level, but then having these the platform being used on the ground for direct service and for young adolescent girls and ladies. So thank you both for sharing, for a great discussion, sharing your expert insights, and congratulations again for a job well done and being highlighted on the report from President Biden. So thank you.
It's been an honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Adrian.